The lot on Esperanza Street had been empty for as long as anyone could remember. A rectangle of cracked concrete and stubborn weeds squeezed between a laundromat and a shuttered bakery. Neighborhood kids used it as shortcut or battleground. Teenagers painted elaborate tags beside older, faded graffiti. Rusted shopping carts lounged in the sun like metal beetles, and every windstorm delivered a fresh cargo of plastic bags that snagged on the chain-link fence and fluttered like tattered flags. In summer, the lot radiated heat. In winter, it pooled shadow. And through every season, it stood as mute reminder of everything the neighborhood lacked and everyone who had given up trying to fix it. Maria Reyes could see the lot from the kitchen of her apartment across the street. Each morning, while packing lunch for her 8-year-old daughter, she would glance at that rectangle and think how a garden might bloom there. One plotted in notebooks back in Guanajuato, underlined with her father's gardening advice. She had come to the city 2 years earlier, taking a job at the garment factory, but she still carried in her mind the smell of damp earth and cilantro and the whistle of late summer cicadas. What she smelled here was diesel exhaust. What she heard was the factory's metallic din. Yet every dawn she looked at the wasted lot and held her breath, allowing herself one fragile second of imagining vines, trellises, tomatoes swelling under sun. One April afternoon, her daughter Anna brought home a science worksheet about plant life cycles. The page showed a cartoon bean sprouting roots. "We have to grow something," Anna said in Spanish. "It's for extra credit." Maria pushed stray hair from Anna's forehead, kissed it, and thought about the unforgiving shade beneath their apartment's fire escape. "We'll find a spot," she promised, though she had no idea where. That Saturday, while Anna practiced multiplication at the kitchen table, Maria walked across the street and jiggled the corner of the chain link. It surrendered with a squeal. Someone had snipped the wire coils months ago. She stepped through. The ground felt spongy in places, hollow in others, and littered with shards of green glass. But near the back wall where afternoon sun lingered, a fissure in the concrete had burst open, exposing loamy soil beneath. Dandelions already celebrated there, gold heads bobbing. Maria crouched, dug her fingers into the dirt, and felt something flutter inside her chest. Recognition, hunger, hope, all braided together. She went home and found a half-used garbage bag, returned to the lot, and began picking up bottles and styrofoam cups. An older man in a flat cap watched from the laundromat doorway. Maria nodded at him, unsure if he was curious or suspicious. He lifted a hand in greeting, then disappeared inside. By sundown, she had filled 3 bags and revealed an entire corner of bald dirt, plus the concrete fissure. Her back ached deliciously. On Monday, she convinced her foreman to let her take discarded wooden pallets from the factory loading bay. Tuesday evening, she and Anna dragged them across the street, pried loose slats with borrowed tools, and built a makeshift bin for the trash she still intended to remove. Their hammering echoed off apartment walls. Lights blinked on as neighbors peered out. That was how Mrs. Hahn arrived. She was a compact woman in her 70s with silver hair twisted into a bun and a reusable grocery bag clutched against her chest. She spoke little English, but she pointed at the pallets, then at the lot, then made a sweeping gesture as if raking soil. Maria nodded enthusiastically and said, "We're making a garden." Mrs. Hahn responded in Korean, melodic phrases Maria couldn't untangle, but her warm smile translated well enough. She bent, picked up a scrap of wood, and began hammering alongside Maria. 2 nights later, a tall teenage boy wearing earbuds paused outside the fence. Maria recognized him vaguely. He played basketball in the playground down the block. He pointed to the hedge trimmers Maria wielded, then to a dense stand of weeds. She shrugged, handed him the trimmers. Without removing his earbuds, he started slashing through the tangle. When finished, he tapped his chest. "Jeremiah," he said. "Call me Jay." Maria introduced herself and Anna. He gave a shy wave and walked off. The next evening he came back with a push broom, sweeping broken glass into piles while nodding his head to whatever beat thumped in his ears. Word traveled along Esperanza Street the way secrets always do, through window gossip, corner store chatter, and the rumbling subterranean network of children. By the following weekend, 9 neighbors converged on the lot. They brought mismatched gloves, chipped shovels, bottles of water. They spoke Spanish, English, Korean, Haitian, Creole, Somali, and Polish. Conversation sounded like radio static at first. Voices overlapping, misunderstanding, restarting. But pointing, sketching in the dust with sticks, and waving arms like semaphores filled in gaps where grammar failed. Mohammed, a taxi driver from Mogadishu, brought 3 burlap sacks of compost he'd been making behind his building. "Food for the dirt," he explained, patting the earth. Mr. Kowalski, a retired machinist from Krakow, presented a dented wheelbarrow and a packet of beet seeds labeled in Polish. Mrs. Hahn produced a plastic container of seedlings the size of matchsticks. She pressed a finger to her lips, shh, and then to her heart, indicating care. By noon that day they had named the lot El Jardín de Todos, everyone's garden, because Anna printed the phrase on cardboard and taped it to the fence. The languages around her collided merrily, but she understood that simple truth. Everyone, Todus, meant exactly what it sounded like. Spring ripened. They broke up concrete slabs with sledgehammers borrowed from the hardware cooperative. Each time a chunk cracked free, cheers erupted in 6 languages. Children collected earthworms displaced by the pounding and deposited them gently in patches of newly exposed soil. Maria taught the word gusano to Jeremiah's little sister Jade. Jade taught her worm in return. They giggled as though having traded secret passwords. In May, a thunderstorm hurled down sheets of water. Maria worried the seedlings would drown, but the dirt drank greedily. Afterward, Mrs. Han brought a thermos of ginger tea to warm, chilled volunteers, and Maria brewed Mexican hot chocolate on a camping stove balanced atop cinder blocks. They discovered that ginger's burn complemented chocolate's sweetness, and soon mugs passed hand to hand, steam joining the petrichor. Still, miscommunications bloomed alongside radish sprouts. One afternoon, Mr. Kowalski sowed his Polish beets exactly where Mohammed had planned to transplant kale. They realized the overlap too late, and their voices rose. Maria tried to translate snippets, but frustration won. Seeing this, Anna dragged over the cardboard sign, flipped it to its blank side, and drew a grid to match the garden's shape. She handed out markers. Each person colored a square, labeling it with seeds they intended to plant. Squabbles dissolved as rectangles filled with tidy script and cartoon vegetables. When they finished, Mohammed laughed, slapping Mr. Kowalski's shoulder. The beets could stay, the kale would shift left. Both men mimed uprooting and replanting. Problem solved with ink and imagination. June delivered its first heat wave, and the garden shimmered like a newly forged coin. Tangerine nasturtiums and purple basil bordered rows of lettuce. Sunflowers shot upward like periscopes. But the heat also coaxed out obstacles. The city inspector arrived one sweltering morning, clipboard in hand. She frowned at the improvised gate, asked about permits. No one present felt confident enough in English to tackle the official's rapid-fire questions, so she left a yellow notice instructing them to cease unauthorized agricultural activity until approvals were secured. News of the notice spread midday when most neighbors were at work. At dusk, bodies clustered inside the fence, eyes fixed on the official warning flapping in breeze. Fear gnawed. Would the garden be bulldozed? Whose name should appear on any paperwork? Maria paced, wrestling bilingual dictionaries in her mind. She could speak well enough to buy groceries, but municipal legalese lived in another universe. Then a voice emerged from the rear of the group. "I can help translate," it said in lightly accented English. Everyone turned to see a woman Maria had noticed but never met. A graduate student named Leonie who rented the top floor above the shuttered bakery. Her parents were Haitian, she explained. She'd grown up translating forms for relatives. She took a photo of the notice, promised to research it, and invited anyone available to her apartment the next evening. They squeezed around Leonie's dining table, which overflowed with binders and laptops. Leonie dissected municipal codes, summarizing in simpler English, then pausing so Maria could relay in Spanish, so Mrs. Han could whisper in Korean to her husband, so Mohammed could paraphrase for two Somali friends via WhatsApp. They learned a permit was needed but free. They learned they must form an official garden association with 3 officers. They learned proof of liability insurance was required, but the city offered a waiver if the garden served educational purposes. "What counts as educational?" Jeremiah asked, earbuds dangling. "Teaching kids to grow food," Leonie said. "Plant science workshops. It's basically what we already do." Relief washed over them, but only briefly. Forms demanded signatures, meeting minutes, bylaws. Leonie divvied tasks. Mohammed would draft bylaws. Maria and Leonie would meet the city clerk. Mrs. Han would ask her church if they could sponsor insurance. Voices overlapped again, but this chaos felt urgent, electric, purposeful. Later that night, Maria walked home exhausted yet buoyant, clutching a folder of documents. Anna slept on the couch, still clutching a drawing of carrots sprouting beneath smiling dirt. Maria kissed her daughter and whispered, "We're keeping it. We'll make them see." The permit saga stretched 3 weeks, but bureaucracy could not deter Zucchini. Vines sprawled, curling tendrils around chain link. Meanwhile, Anna organized Saturday Soil School, where children decorated popsicle stick plant markers. Each marker bore 3 words, Spanish, English, and another language chosen by whatever adult hovered nearby. Thus, cilantro, coriander, gohyangcho, tomato, tomate, yaño, pepper, pimiento, pilipili. The markers marched into the beds like multilingual miniature totems, reminding everyone of shared ownership and difference alike. One sultry evening late in July, Maria and Jeremiah watered rows as dragonflies cruised above. Jeremiah set down the hose and asked, hesitant, "How do you say friend in Spanish?" "Amigo for a boy, amiga for a girl," Maria replied. He practiced softly. "Amiga." He pointed at a zucchini the length of a baseball bat. "Zucchini amiga?" Maria laughed, corrects. "Calabacine." He repeated the word until it fit his mouth, then sliced the squash with a pocket knife, offering half to Maria. They munched raw slices, letting juice drip down their chins. Weeks later, the permit arrived, embossed with city seal. They cheered, taped a laminated copy to the gate, and celebrated by planting a fig sapling donated by the Polish deli owner. Mr. Kowalski placed the sapling inside a circle of stones, wiped sweat from his brow, and declared, in accent thick English, "Now, garden will last longer than me." Mohammed clapped his back. Mrs. Han touched the fig's fragile trunk and whispered something rhythmic and soothing, perhaps a prayer. Summer pivoted to autumn, and the garden's colors grew deeper, richer. Crimson amaranth waved above amber marigolds. Anna counted 14 languages represented on the popsicle sticks after a new family from Afghanistan contributed bamia for okra. Harvest days turned into spontaneous potlucks. Mrs. Han steamed dumplings stuffed with garden chives. Maria charred poblanos for Rajas tacos. Mohammed brewed cardamom tea. Jeremiah's mother baked sweet potato pies with crusts flaky as dust. No one could name all dishes or ingredients, but everything tasted like belonging. Yet the real feast took place beneath languages. When Maria's Spanish slipped, she gestured with cupped palms to show scooping earth. When Mrs. Hand's English faltered, she shaped invisible circles to measure spacing between cabbages. The soil served as dictionary, the plants as syntax. You could dig your fingers into either and pull up meaning. One Saturday in early October, Anna discovered a woolly caterpillar munching on kale leaves and decided it needed a home. She built it a shoebox habitat while the adults debated whether to spray organic soap or simply plant sacrificial greens. Mid-discussion, thunder cracked. A storm advanced blackly from the river, wind-swirling dust devils down Esperanza Street. Everyone scrambled, stacking chairs, coiling hoses. Cold rain hammered the lot, drumming on leaf and tarp. Maria ducked into the laundromat doorway beside Mr. Kowalski and Leonie. Water sheeted off the awning. Inside, washing machines chugged indifferent to weather. For several minutes they watched vines whip, sunflowers bend, cardboard signs soak into papier-mâché. Maria's throat tightened. Would wind undo months of toil? She pressed a fist to her mouth. When the storm passed, they squished back through sideways mud. The sunflowers had toppled, the fig support stakes snapped. But most beds held firm, and even flattened sunflowers still clung to seeds. Jeremiah snapped selfies beside them, claiming the flowers were merely taking a nap. Still, gloom hovered until Anna held up the shoebox. The caterpillar had survived, munching contentedly on kale. As if on cue, laughter cracked open the air. Damage could be fixed, seedlings could be replanted. What mattered had rooted deeper than any storm could yank up. The true test arrived in November, when temperatures plunged and daylight shrank. Some neighbors retreated indoors, but a core group met Sundays to insulate beds with straw and build a hoop house from PVC pipe, plastic sheeting, and binder clips. Mrs. Hahn showed how to fold newspapers into seedling pots so winter herbs could sprout on windowsills. Muhammad invented a game for children. Each wrote wishes for spring on slips of paper, sealed them in jars, and buried them under garlic cloves. "Garlic protects," he explained. "In spring, we dig up both the wishes and the cloves." On a frigid December night, El Jardín de Todos hosted its first solstice lantern walk. Participants fashioned lanterns from mason jars, paper bags, or tin cans punched with holes. They lit tea lights inside, forming a trembling constellation around dormant beds. Breath fogged, mittens rubbed. Languages blended into one shivering chant, counting down seconds until the solstice officially began. Then someone, no one later remembered who, started humming, "This Little Light of Mine." Others joined, voices weaving melody where vocabulary failed. Above them, the moon rose sharp and brittle, but within the fence the garden glowed warm as ember. Maria, standing near the fig sapling now wrapped in burlap, felt Anna's small hand find hers. She scanned faces wreathed in lantern light. Mr. Kowalski humming bass, Mrs. Hahn smiling through closed eyes, Jeremiah tapping rhythm on a post, Muhammad lifting his jar high like an offering. Around them, the city pulsed neon, horns, sirens. But inside the chain link, there was only this chorus stitched from vowels and earth. Months passed, seasons cycled. Spring returned tender green. Permit renewals, seed catalogs, and volunteer rosters occupied February evenings. By April, saplings reclined in windowsills across 6 apartment buildings, leaning toward morning light, awaiting transplant. On planting day, neighbors poured through the gate like seeds spilling from cupped hands. Anna, taller now, ponytail swishing, read from the jarred wishes as children unearthed them. I wish for a puppy. I wish my grandma visits. I wish our garden never ends. Laughter sprouted. Garlic cloves white and strong emerged beside the scribbled dreams, ready to season whatever came next. That afternoon, a reporter from the local paper arrived, camera dangling, notebook poised. He asked who led the project. Maria looked at Leonie. Leonie looked at Mohammed. Mohammed looked at Mrs. Hahn. Mrs. Hahn pointed to Anna, who giggled behind soil-streaked cheeks. Todos, she finally said. We all did. The reporter scribbled, then requested a group photo. They crowded beneath blooming peach branches. He counted down 1, 2, and at 3, something unplanned happened. Without consulting one another, every participant reached down and scooped a bit of soil, lifting it toward the lens. Palms opened, earth spilled, dark against bright afternoon. Click went the shutter. The photo ran Sunday, captioned, Neighbors cultivate more than vegetables. In it, no single face dominated. Instead, hands filled the frame, offering soil like a universal letter written without consonants. Readers might notice a Korean grandmother beside a Polish retiree, a Somali taxi driver, a Mexican factory worker, an African-American teenager, a Haitian scholar, a dozen others whose languages could not be listed in the space allotted. What the camera caught, what words below tried to name, was the grammar of belonging that seeds and soil had taught. First dig, then plant, then share, and along the way discover that translation lives beneath tongues, in the dirt we hold together. Long after that newspaper yellowed, El Jardín de Todos remained. Tomatoes came and went, vines withered, storms raged, children grew. Some neighbors moved away, new ones arrived holding unfamiliar seed packets. But each spring the gates squeaked open, hands reached inside, and voices, whatever their accent, cadence, vocabulary, met in the middle, kneading soil into something that could feed them all. And every time someone asked who started the garden, Maria would shrug and point to the ground. The answer, as always, lay right there, written in furrows, sprouting in chorus, spelling itself anew each season in the only language that never needed translation,